These days, I have sort of a love-hate relationship with cooking. There was a time where I loved to cook, where I considered myself like a domestic goddess in the kitchen, and I cooked all the time. I cooked all the things. I always made everything fresh and from scratch. And then fast forward several years later, where I no longer consider myself to be just a wife and a mom, and I want to have a personal life for myself. Um, Cooking sometimes gets in the way of that. So if I want to relax in the evening or go somewhere or do something, or I just don't have the energy for it, I just I don't enjoy cooking as much. But on a Sunday when I can just cook, and just Sunday is usually a day where I just feel like cooking. It just feels like a day where I should be cooking. I'm kind of okay with it. So on this particular Sunday, I was making a lamb stew, and I had some leftover lamb from a stew that I had made um, maybe about a week or so prior. I still had some meat that I didn't use. So this was a smaller stew because I only had maybe about a pound and a half of meat. So I just made it for kind of like maybe like a late lunch, early dinner type of thing, but it wasn't like a huge meal where we would have a ton left over. But what I did here is I just cook with intuition. There's no actual quote unquote recipe. And even though I'll use the term recipe just for ease, there's not really a recipe. It's just, they're basic things that I like to put in um, like every soup or stew. It's the basis to most things that I cook, which is like the onion, bell pepper, and celery. And then I'll add in garlic as well. On this particular day, I didn't have any fresh garlic, so I didn't add it into the food processor. But if I did, I would have added it in there. So I did about a half of the onion, just a handful of sliced bell pepper. And I usually will either slice the bell pepper myself and freeze it, or I'll just buy a melange from like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, and I'll just add that in. And that's a lot easier than actually doing it fresh. So I'll saute the onion, bell pepper, celery, garlic if I have it. And then once it's sauteed, then I will set it off to the side. And if I'm adding herbs in there, then I will add some olive oil to the pot, and then I'll saute the herbs, and then I will add the seasoned meat in. So as far as the seasoned meat goes, I pretty much use what either I have on hand or what I'm in the mood for. I pretty much have a stocked cabinet and drawer of seasonings, so there's a lot for me to choose from. So it just depends on what I'm in the mood for. And on this particular day, I wanted to add curry, and I added another Indian spice in, but I don't do that every time. With lamb, it's a very flavorful meat. It's kind of hard to mess up as long as you have enough salt. So even if you didn't have an array of different seasonings to choose from, if all you had was salt, granulated or powdered onion and garlic, and then some either fresh or jarred garlic, that would be enough. I mean, it might not taste exactly like mine tastes, but it wouldn't be far off, because you don't need all the extra seasonings to dress it up. It's going to be good regardless, as long as you have, your basic ingredients in. Like for me, like I said, the base is the onion, bell pepper, celery. And garlic. That's what I usually start with. And I didn't have fresh garlic, so I just added some not granulate. I added in minced garlic that I had in the refrigerator that was already prepared. I added that into the meat. So I seasoned all the meat, and then I let it sit for about 20 minutes because I'm pressure cooking it. So I know that if I'm pressure cooking it, I don't have to spend a long time letting the meat marinate. All the flavors will come through. But if I were just cooking it on the stovetop in a regular pot, I would let that meat marinate for at least an hour. But once I start to brown the meat, I'm gonna flip it over, brown it on all sides. Then I will add some liquid, which in this case I added red wine and water, and I also added in some beef better than bouillon. which is optional. But if you have bouillon or broth, I would definitely say add that in. And if you're using broth, I mean, you could use 100% broth as your liquid. I particularly wanted to add wine because it adds another depth of flavor. And if you are concerned about having alcohol, the alcohol will cook out. So it's not really a thing. There's not, as long as you're not allergic to maybe the sulfites that would be in wine, there's really no trace of alcohol. So you don't have to worry about that. But mix the liquid in, I'll put the vegetables in. And it really doesn't matter if you add the vegetables in before or after you add the liquid. I mean, it's a very easy recipe. It's very forgiving. It doesn't matter in what order you do that in. Just make sure you saute the vegetables first. That's the only thing that I would say. So do that. And I generally like to, as a rule of thumb, I will cook meats for about 7 minutes on pressure cook. And then I'll check it to see, do I need to move the meat around a bit? Does it need to cook anymore? Kind of make a decision based on that. But it's not, most of the time it's not done at 7 minutes, but it's just kind of like letting me know what's going on, because since it's being pressure cooked, I have to either release the steam manually, or I generally run my pot under cold water, and that will release the button so I can open it. So once I open it, then I just test it I'm testing for a couple things. I'm testing for the flavor, and I'm testing for doneness. If it needs to cook more, which generally it should need to cook at this point, but I'm checking to see how done it is, because I'm going to add in potatoes, and I want to make sure that my meat is not fully cooked when I add the potatoes, and also carrots when I add them in. I want to make sure that I have at least about 5 minutes to cook the potatoes and the carrots in the pressure cooker. And if you are afraid of overcooking your potatoes, because that's a thing, I've actually done that. You can boil your potatoes separately in salt water. Just make sure that the water is properly salted, because you want to make sure that your potatoes have flavor. You do not want them to be bland. And then you could add your potatoes in once the lamb stew is cooked. But for me, I actually added the potatoes in. I had a lot of liquid in there. So I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the potatoes in, and I'm going to add the carrots in. I'm going to seal the lid and cook it. I think I set the pressure cooker for maybe 5 minutes, but I was afraid that I would overcook it. So I checked it at 3 minutes, and it still needed to cook a bit. So I put the lid back on after I just cooked it a little bit. I still was kind of afraid. I was afraid that maybe I would overcook it. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll just sit here and boil it. But then I, at some point, decided I'm just going to put the top back on. I'm just going to trust it, using my intuition again, but also just being cautious, knowing, if you cook it for too long, it's going to be overcooked, and the stew will become more like it'll have more of like a kind of like pasty sort of texture. It'll still taste good, but it's not as enjoyable. So I put the lid on and cooked it for a few more minutes. If you're looking for a time gauge, you really just need to base it upon what you're using. You might be using an Instant Pot where the time is going to be completely different. You might be using a gas stove or an electric stove. You really just need to use your own intuition to figure out how long you need to cook it, because even if I gave you an exact time down to an exact science, it's not going to cook the same in your house as it cooks in mine. There are a lot of varying things that just will not translate to an exact amount of time. So just test it as you go. But once it's done, then I just test it again for doneness. Well, not once it's done. Once it's done cooking for the however long, I may have cooked it for an additional 5 minutes. I'm not sure, but once it was done with that maybe 5 minutes, I released the steam, and I opened it up again, and it was fork tender. So at that point, I knew it was done, and I just added in some chopped arugula, because that's what I had on hand. If I had spinach, I would have chopped some spinach and put it in there. Or if you like peas, you could put peas in there. You can add frozen peas at the same time that you put your potatoes and carrots in. I don't like peas in my lamb stew, so I didn't add it, but just add some green for some brightness and freshness. But just use whatever you have on hand. It's really not complicated. It's really, just based on intuition, what you have in your fridge and your pantry. It's quite simple. So let me know if you try it, how it turns out, and do you cook from recipes or do you cook based on intuition? Let me know. Okay, so here's my lamb stew. I tried it already, but it was super hot. It's good, but it burnt the mess out of my tongue. I never know where to look. I don't know where the camera is. So if I'm looking over there or looking up anywhere, just excuse me. I don't know where to look. But this is the stew. Can't see it very well from there, but I'm sure you saw it in the video already, but it's really good. So I just wanted to take a bite, or a spoonful rather. Really good, really tender, and also hot. Looking at this, my hair looks a mess. We went to the beach yesterday, the Venice beach. I have really good hair, but with all that wind, being so close to the water, it really messed my hair up, but it's life. You gonna try it now? Tell me what you think.
Good. Tender.
That's the same thing I said. He wasn't even here when I ate it. That's the same thing I said. That's it. Ciao.